You are listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense.
I'm sorry, but I'm away from Comedy Club for Kids HQ right now, as I'm on a much-needed holiday, which I'm certain will be to a glamorous location, full of all the things they have at glamorous locations, like, palm trees, and people who come along and give you ice-cold cups of vegetable soup when you need them, and all kinds of hats, and tortoises called Graham. And piers, that's it. Nice places often have piers on the beach, and they always look like someone was building a bridge, and then they couldn't be bothered to finish it. Anyway, I'm there, wherever that glamorous location is that Linda has booked me into, and so I'm afraid I can't answer your call right now. If it's important, please shout it at any passing goblins, and they'll be so annoyed they'll be sure to find me just to shout it at my face as revenge. If it's an emergency, then best to ask your yoghurt-headed guff herders, grown-ups, as frankly, I am useless in an emergency. I just run around screaming and waving my arms about saying, "Oh no, it's an emergency," a lot, and no one really wants that. So please leave your message after the beep.
Hello, it's me. As you heard, I'm meant to be on vacation in a glamorous place, sipping a cup of ice-cold vegetable soup, in the sunshine, but I don't know what has been going on. I was meant to be going on a holiday in the Canary Islands, but instead Linda has somehow booked me onto a Canaries island, and the Canary's called Greg. And he's so annoyed I've arrived at his home. He just spends all day tweeting at me angrily, which is weird, I'm right here. He doesn't need to use Twitter to communicate with me. I can't believe he still uses it. Anyway, it's not great, but I'm away from Comedy Club for Kids HQ, so I can't access the mailbag or any of the most importantest bits or any of that. But I didn't want to leave you guys hanging during the holidays. So instead, I thought I'd use this and next week, while I'll still be away, to answer some of the questions from you listeners that have already had questions answered. Yes, that's right. You're such an inquisitive lot, which is an absolutely brilliant thing. I wish I was as inquisitive as you. I wish I'd asked Linda exactly where it was I'd been booked into. Linda, why'd you book me a holiday on Greg's Island? Linda. Anyway, I don't think she's here with me. I don't really know why I shouted that. You are also inquisitive, is what I was saying, that many of you had a question answered by one of the experts on the show, and then you still sent in more questions after that, which is great, but the rules is the rules, so I usually put them in a special question pile so that listeners who've never had a question answered get a go first. But I happened to take this special question pile on holiday, and I thought I'd give you some answers myself. I don't get to answer much myself usually, as you know, all the guests do the hard work on Radio Nonsense, but I'll have you know I'm actually very good at answering questions. Questions like, why are you in my garden? Or, whose parrot is this? Or even, if I have 10 apples in this hand and 400 aubergines in this hand, why do I have such big hands? So, here are some answers for those of you who are the most curious of listeners. This question comes in from Ridley. Ridley actually sent this question last year, and both Ridley and Ridley's sister have had questions answered before on Radio Nonsense. And Ridley sent in many amazing jokes too. So I'm so sorry you've had to wait so long for this answer, but you have already had questions answered and jokes read out, so it's only fair. But this question that was stuck on the second question pile is, why hasn't anyone designed a coat for your legs? Because they have made coats that are designed to cover your chest and arms, but even long coats are not really designed with legs in mind. Well, Ridley, that is a fantastic question. It's a very good question. There's actually a very serious answer to it, which is that the trouser union, or pants union, if you're in the USA, the pants union in the UK is something very different and very funny. But the trouser or pants union is very strong, and they are very worried that if coats cover legs as well, then they're going to be out of work, and that would be very sad. There's trousers or pants really like being trousers and pants, or, not those pants, the other American pants, and they don't want to be worn on people's heads like large rabbit ears or like a rubbish, uncomfortable scarf. That would be terrible. Who wants to wear trousers as a scarf? It'd be rubbish. Can you imagine wearing it as like one sleeve of a jacket and then the other leg would be sort of dangling, and I suppose you could wear on another pair of trousers on the other side. Then you'd have to have like 2 pairs of trousers just to wear every day to have not even a jacket. Maybe if you had one of those body warmers, that or a gilet, as fancy people call them, and it wouldn't cover your arms, it would cover your body but not your arms. Maybe then you could use a trouser leg to cover the other arm, and then have one trouser leg kind of flapping about that you could use to kind of either tie things to, like some flowers, or you're shopping, or a pet. That's maybe you could walk your dog like that, and then on the other arm you could do the same thing but attach it to something else you need, like a basket of walnuts, or a selection of seashells. I don't really know, but even though I've just come up with that brilliant idea that I may well sell to trouser manufacturers, generally trousers and pants, trousers or pants, but not those pants, they want to still be trousers and pants, and therefore they don't want coats to step up. Like, coats have got a job already. People need coats all the time, especially in the winter and the autumn, and in the UK in the spring and in the summer as well. Don't be treading on trousers/pants' stage. That's all I'm saying. So that's why, Ridley, and I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that brilliant question. Sorry it has taken like a year to answer it. Question 2 is from Brad, a girl who has asked loads of questions on the show, and this question was asked at the beginning of last year. I think Brad, a girl, has had a couple of questions answered by experts, which isn't even meant to happen. Unbelievable, Brad, a girl. And Brad, a girl, has asked, who thought of how to milk a cow, and who taught the first teacher? Now, the first one, actually, is who thought of how to milk a cow. That is a very good question, and it was Dean. I don't know if you know Dean. Dean, squishing everything. He squished everything, and Dean is actually the first person to milk everything. Cows, goats, oats, soybeans, rice, shoes, the entire country of Belgium. Dean just likes squishing things. He likes things that are squishy. What happened one day is he ran out of Play-Doh, and he was really upset there was nothing else to squish, and so he ran around just squishing everything he could, and it was only when he got to a cow that he squished it and milk came out, and he went, that's really weird, that's one of my favourite drinks, and now I know finally how to get it. Weirdly, before Dean did that, people had milk as a drink, no one knew where it came from. I don't, sometimes things are just weird. Who taught the first teacher? That was a kid called Joey in 806 BC, who knew absolutely nothing. He kept trying to eat by putting food in his eye. He thought every country in the world was called Bath Town. He thought Pilfteen was a number and that Groggle was an animal. So anyway, Joey knew so little that it inspired his neighbour, Dorothea Brown, when she saw him trying to wear a fence as a hat. She realised that maybe she could teach him things so that he could learn properly, and she became the first ever teacher. Joey was in the first classroom ever, and he actually ended up learning so much that he became leader of the UN and the creator of Netflix all at once. It's a wonderful, beautiful story. So, Brad, a girl, I hope that answers your questions from ages ago. Sorry. This question, number 3, for this holiday one, is from Annabella, or Bella, who asked these questions last year as well. And again, Bella's had loads of questions sent into the show, and loads of jokes, and loads of everything, actually. And thank you, Bella, for emailing quite so often. And Bella asked, can trees wee and poop? And I do love Subway, but I mean, it's just a sandwich, right? Well, first question first, you've got to take them in order. Trees can wee. That's why it's called a wee, so it conveniently rhymes with tree. That's where the name comes from. It'd be weird, wouldn't it, if wee was called something else that didn't rhyme with tree. They wouldn't be able to go. So, because it's called wee, and they are a tree, they can indeed do it. And every now and then you'll see proof of this, because a dog will go up to a tree to do a wee, but then it'll run away a bit scared, and it's because the tree weed on it first. Really annoyingly, like, trees have to be watered in order to wee. So being a dry summer, they can't really wee because they haven't drunk anything. A bit like us humans. But they do definitely wee. Trees can only poo once every 200 years, though, and it is terrifying when they do. Just don't be anywhere near that ever. And subway isn't just a sandwich, it's also an underground system. Some cities have a whole subway network, and every morning to get to work, people have to sit in different bits of the sandwich. Like, are you on the Italian herbs and cheese line? Are you on the wholemeal line? Are you on the toasted line? And they have to kind of sit in between the cheese slices or the meatballs in order to get to work. And when they get to work, everyone goes, "Wow, you smell like a sandwich." And they go, "Yeah, isn't it great?" And everyone goes, "Yeah, I wish I could smell like sandwiches." And that's why they released a special brand of perfume that makes you smell like a sandwich. And you can also get even more perfumes that smell like an entire meal deal, or a packet of crisps, or just a yogurt for dessert. It's fantastic. Okay, and then the last questions for this one are both from Henry the Buttoxido, who was aged 11 when he sent this in, but that was 2 years ago. So Henry the Buttoxido is probably now like 13, and got no interest in this show whatsoever. But Henry the Buttoxido asked some fantastic questions when he was listening, and these are two of them that I'd shoved in the second not really looked at pile. So, the first question is, why don't prisons just surround themselves with Lego bricks? Henry, that is a very smart idea, because we all know how devastating it would be to step on Lego, and how that would stop any escaping prisoner right in their tracks. I've stepped on Lego a lot in my life, and it is really painful. I mean, sometimes I just did it on purpose just to check, and every time I was like, "Yeah, that is the worst thing I've ever stepped on," and I've stepped on a hedgehog. Again, that was a part of a balancing act. I chose my partner really badly. But anyway, what if, though, the prisoners are Lego experts, you see? Then they might know how to tiptoe around and use all the pieces to build themselves a Millennium Falcon, and then they'll fly off to space and they'll never be caught again, because they'll be really busy doing bounty hunter or smuggler missions. And frankly, I just don't think anyone can risk that, and that is why they don't put Lego pieces on the floor outside prisons. The other question that Henry has asked, I think this is quite an easy one, I'll be honest. But Henry has asked, if you had 3 arms, which side would the thumb be on? Henry, this is easy, right? If I had 3 arms, on the third arm, the thumb would be straight up on top of it, so everyone would know I was always giving a thumbs up to everything. Like it was all, "Hey, okay," and I could use the other 2 arms to carry stuff. People would be like, "Do you need a hand?" "Oh, you don't need a hand, because I can see your third hand is saying thumbs up. It's all fine." I could be shaking 2 people's hands, and the third person like, "Should I shake your hand?" No, I see a thumbs up. You're fine for shaking hands. You see, it would be always like a really nice positive message at all times. Also, I could put hula hoops or a donut on that thumb, and I could lift my arms straight to my mouth to eat it. It could be like sort of, "I need a hula hoop," and the thumb would just go straight in the mouth, eat the hula hoop, put it back down. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So thank you, Henry the Buttoxido, for those fantastic questions. Sorry it's taken so long to get to them, but I haven't had a holiday in ages. And that's all for this week's holiday bonus episode. I'm going to actually answer more of these extra questions from you listeners who've already had one answered by an expert, and I'll do that next week. Next week's the second holiday episode, and then we'll be back to normal. But don't forget to ask your yogurt-headed guff herders, grown-ups, to help you email me any questions, and I need questions. I really need questions, especially from those of you who haven't sent in any before, or if you want to send in anything else as well, please email all that to podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. And if you listen to Spotify, you can send questions direct on each episode now too. I don't really know how it works, no one's done it yet. Give it a try, see what happens. And if your grown-ups fancy signing up to the Linda edition of this podcast, which is ad-free and comes out a day early, they can do that by the link on the podcast blurb. Check out our live shows at comedyclubforkids.co.uk, our merch at comedyclubforkids.store, and don't eat green crisps. Just don't. I know they look funny. Don't do it. Trust me on this. Yes, Greg, I'm going. Okay, I'm just working out where to, alright? I'm moving on. Hopefully Linda has sorted out a better destination, so I'm just going to pack my bags and maybe, eventually, get a holiday. Bye! You have been listening to Comedy Comedy Club for Kids presents. Radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense. It's the end.